I'm going to speak on advanced surface ablation. It was long neglected, considered as a PRK, as a bad or old surgery, but it has in a new avatar, has come in a latest things. If we talk of the history, the PRK started in 1988 by McDonald, then FDA approved, was granted in 1995. First LASIK was done Pelcaris and Buraton in 1990. Then FDA approval was given to 1999. Then FDA approval for Femtoblock was given in 2001 and Wavefront guided in 2002. And recently in 2016, we got the approval for Smile and Contura Vision. So we got a lot of things on our armamentarium. Let us see evolution of the surgery. The corneal refractive surgery started with RK to PRK, then LASIK, followed by LASIK, interlace, epilasic, and Smile. We come to the PRK. PRK was great advancement over incisional surgery at that time. It was more accurate, was able to correct not only myopia, but hypermetropia and astigmatism also. The results were pretty stable, but pain, delayed healing, and chances of scarring were the main drawbacks. Then came the LASIK. There was a rapid recovery, immediate gratification. There is decreased risk of scarring and practically no pain, has made it most popular refractive procedure. But it has its own problem. There is a flap-related complications like stye are there, buttonholing is there, there may be incomplete flap. At interface, there may be debris, then epithelial growth and DLK may be there. There is risk of flap displacement after trauma, which may occur even after years of surgery. And ectasia is the most common guided complication. So femtolasic has decreased. Getting some sound disturbances in between. Femtolasic has decreased the chances of flap-related complication, but it has introduced few newer complications also. If we come to Smile, Smile is a very good technology, but it has a lot of limitation. At present, we can't do hyperopia. Customized treatment like wavefront guided treatment, topo guided treatment are not possible. It's difficult in low power correction. Then you have to take out a lot of extra tissue. Then bitoric, mixed astigmatism are difficult. Then treatment is centered on the pupil. There is no cyclotorsion compensation, no angle kappa adjustment. Centering is manual and cyclotorsion adjustment is manual. So many things are manual. This is not as far as we had LASIK system. If there is a little decentration of the flap in the LASIK, it's not going to cause any refractive effect. But in a Smile, if even if there is a Smile, there is even a very short displacement or little decentration, it may cause high coma in these patients. And we see the coma persist in most of the Smile patients even up to 6 months. So what happened? There is again resurgence of surface ablation procedures. More and more surgeons are moving to surface ablation. The improvement in laser system, surface ablation has benefited most. The surface procedure are mainly LASIK, where epithelium sheet is removed with the help of alcohol. In epilasic, the epithelium sheet is removed with epikeratome, and there is advanced surface ablation is improved, modified from the PRK. So what is popular now is the advanced, that's known as advanced surface ablation, because it's quite different advanced what the PRK we used to do in earlier cases. So what are the indications of surface ablation over LASIK? Let us consider is if there is irregular astigmatism, if there is a formoplastic keratoconus, if there is a thin cornea, if there is a night vision concern, if there are anterior stobal opacities, there is a choice of procedure. If there is a contact sports where chances of injury are there, or hazardous duties where more chances of getting trauma to the eyes, it's again a preferred one. Then we have prior RK, AK, or LASIK surgery. So it's again a choice because we don't have to lift the flap and we don't touch the cornea too much. Then there is a wavefront guided treatment we want to do, topo guided treatment we want to do. It's not possible unless I Smile. And then LASIK, even if we take out the flap, it causes some ablation itself also. So it's again a treatment of choice in these cases. If the patient has earlier artery surgery, if there is a filtering bleb, if there is a deep set eye, where you find difficult to put your keratome suction in there, or you find it difficult to put your ring of femtolasic, then it's a treatment of choice. And last but not the least, we can combine it with C3R. So that gives a more regularization of the cornea. than if we do the C3R alone. So coming again to the pre-operative evolution, the visual acuity, reflection, pachymetry, topography, and wavefront analysis are done. And special care is given to the ocular surface. That's very, very important, especially in the advanced surface ablation. So I'll come to that later. So the procedure is, we put a speculum, then we put the paracaine eye drops. Then epithelium is removed. There are various methods of removing epithelium. Sorry. So there are various techniques of removal of epithelium. In manual technique, an optical zone is marked and a blunt spatula is used to debride the cornea. Then a Moyle's brush is being used. It's a rotating brush, quite similar to what we have battery operated toothbrush with tougher bristles. So it just cleans off the epithelium. Then alcohol has been used. It's a 20% alcohol is applied in well for 30 seconds. It's thoroughly washed with chilled BSS. But every process has limitation. So this epithelium is loosened and is removed with a hockey stick. Then laser is applied on the smooth surface and desired ablation is done. If required, mitomycin 0.02% is applied for 12 seconds. Again, it's thoroughly washed with BSS. Most of the surgeons use mitomycin for any ablation which is more than 50 microns or for retreatment cases. A good quality bandage lens is applied. I'm just talking about the standard procedure. Antibiotics and lubricating drops are placed over the contact lens. In post-operative period, we use antibiotic drops, lubricant drops, steroids, and NSAIDs are used. So what are the complications we used to get with PRK? The possible complication there may be stromal scarring, which may cause haze. Then there may be irregular astigmatism. There may be persistent corneal epithelial defect. Then recurrent epithelial erosion may be there, which may cause significant discomfort. And there may be epitheliopathy. So what we have done in advanced surface ablation to improve our results. So there are various tips and techniques which we have applied, which has improved the outcome of surface ablation to a very high and satisfactory level. So a careful examination should be done for cases of blepharitis. Good lid hygiene, scrub and doxycycline should be used. If there is a mebonitis, it should be treated with hot water compression. If there is a dry eye, which should be managed with artificial tears and cyclosporin drops, ointment and puncture plugs. Middle-aged patients are more prone to dry eyes. Oral steroids are helpful in reducing inflammation and pain, but should be tapered slowly. So coming to again to the operative points, one modulator like mitomycin has changed the game in favor of surface ablation. It prevents haze and higher amount of correction can be done. Proper contact lens fitting is again very, very important. If there is a poorly fitted contact lens or if excessive protein or lipid buildup is there, the contact lens should be removed even if you're seeing patient on second day or third day. There should not be any debris or deposit under the side of contact lens. If you find it there, immediately change it. There are new variety of contact lens which are biological decomposable. I think they will be available soon. And newer materials are coming which are more oxygen content having there, and they are more friendly to cornea. The Nepafenex should not be placed directly before putting contact lens, and NSAID should be limited 4 to 5 days. I prefer Fleur or the Acufleur, which are more cornea friendly than Nevanec or Bromfenec. Then post-operative period, we should avoid overuse of topical anesthetics. I don't use any anesthetic. Some person use because of they feel the pain, maybe monitored it. But what happens when you give it to the patient finds it's very convenient because it reduces the pain. So he keeps on putting it too much. So one should not give it to the patient. Oral steroid, prednisolone should be given 80 milligram, tapered in 6 days. But my technique is a little different. I give it 80 milligram for 2 days. And we have a strong oral pain agent now. Basically, acetaminophen is very, very good. And we use it in these patients. Then aminoglycosides should be avoided. Again, we have to improve the epithelial regeneration. So if you find any epithelial defect is there, or if it's not there, you can use doxycycline 100 milligram twice a day for persistent epithelial defects. And one important thing is avoid ultraviolet rays exposure. The ultraviolet rays which causes haze on the cornea. So give a good quality of glass. You have to see it yourself that the patient is getting 100% UV blocker glass. Check it yourself. Sometimes patient use different glasses, or some time the goggles have been marked as 100%, but they are not 100% UV blocker. Then topical cyclosporin is very good. It should be given twice a day and immediately post-operative period and continued for 3 months, whether the patient have dry eye or not. But it is very, very good topical cyclosporin. Then vitamin C is given twice a day. Nutrition supplement like omega-3 fatty acids are added. These all things help. Actually, what happened now, we have got the better system now. This is called, like the student has introduced, smart surface technology. It's had revolutionized the treatment. So we get a much smoother surface now. So epithelial removal has improved. This is from Alcon. This is Wavelight. So what happened? They have given a very good system now. So we can do higher correction. Myopia can be corrected up to 10 diopter. It's as good as any LASIK procedure. So myopic astigmatism can be corrected with a combination up to 10 diopter, and cylindrical alone can be corrected up to -6 diopter. Hyperopia can be corrected up to +3 diopter with this technique, and hyperopic astigmatism again +3 diopter, or mixed astigmatism we can correct up to 4 diopter. So we got a whole wide range now to treat. Earlier we were limiting surface ablation to 3 or 4 diopter, or the cases where the LASIK cannot be done. But now it has become a treatment of choice in many cases and preferred by many surgeons now. Basically, what has happened, it's now become a single process. There is a change from PTK mode to PRK mode is indicated by yellow line. This is a single process. There's no automatic stop, and there is a sound alert. You can stop if you feel like anywhere. So it's a one step, no time lag technique. It's not you do PTK, then you switch over to excimer laser procedure, surface this ablation procedure. This is just one step. You have to press one, it will take care of everything. First epithelium is removed, followed by diffraction correction. Then optical zone selection is done, which corresponds to refractive zone. That's very important. Suppose we want to correct 6 millimeter, it will calculate itself whether it requires 7 millimeter or 7.5 millimeter. It will remove epithelium only in that area, not a wide zone of 8 millimeter. Then less myopic shift compared to standard PTK mode because of the optimized removal. What change has taken? What we were earlier using a wavefront optimized treatment for LASIK. Now the same thing has been used for removal of epithelium. So where we get more energy on the peripheral areas. So this thing has revolutionized. Basically, there is overall a smooth removal of epithelium with the same thickness in the periphery, in the center. So uniform removal causes more predictable outcome. So we are getting better results now. The Streamlight optimized epithelial surface ablation profile. More pulses are used outside the 4 mm zone to prevent epithelial remnants. Streamlight is one-step treatment, so requiring one centering, therefore, NNC procedure. You don't have to do centering again. And there is active eye tracking throughout the entire procedure. Epi-ablation zones automatically determines by the laser itself based on the PRK ablation zone profile. There is an active eye tracking throughout the entire process. So advantage, accelerated healing and visual recovery by limiting minimum epithelial removal. There is a less pain because we are just doing not any collateral damage to epithelium. There is a reduced risk of haze because of accelerated healing, because of a smooth surface and better contour, because removing damaged cells and reducing thermal effect. The flip side is that it accentuates the importance of epithelial mapping. We have to measure if possible. It gives a better result. It's still not available with premium profiles. Suppose we want to do custom Q or Contura. It's not available with the system, and it has a price tag. We have to pay per price. If we talk of advanced surface ablation as such, so I'll just summarize the advantage. It's a gentle, there's no touch, no cut, no flap, no incision. It's very safe, more biomechanical preservation of cornea and making the cornea more stable. Stability is much higher. Then it's a stress-free. There is a faster treatment. It's simple step. There's no effect on the posterior segment. So you can safely do posterior segment pathology. There is an excellent clinical outcome. There are reduced chances of dry eye because we leave the nerves that produces tears intact and can be combined with CXL. It's economical to you. Easy to use, time-saving, low investment. You don't require femtosecond, or even you don't require ikeratome also. Surface ablation is one of the most effective tools in the surgical armamentarium of all refractive surgeons. Is still underutilized, but it is a very promising and exciting superior results. Now we are getting more and more surgeons switching to surface ablation. I think it's getting much better and more acceptable now. Thank you very much.